It was March 23, 1946, and in the small town of Texarkana, Texas, a young couple, Betty Jo Booker, 20, and her boyfriend, Eddie Dillard, 21, were brutally murdered in their car, parked on a secluded road. Betty Jo's face was slashed, and Eddie's body was riddled with bullets. This was the third murder in just over a week, and the people of Texarkana were gripped with fear. The victims were all young couples, parked in secluded areas, enjoying the night air. But for some reason, this killer had a specific target in mind: couples. The first victim was James Bucks Smith, 29, and his girlfriend, Mary Swain, 23, who were shot and killed on February 23, 1946. Just a few days later, on February 24, 1946, another couple, Polly Nichols, 19, and her boyfriend, Paul Martin, 20, were found brutally murdered. The killer was dubbed the Phantom Killer due to the anonymous nature of the crimes. As the body count rose, the town was gripped with fear. People were too afraid to go out at night, and the streets were empty. The police were under immense pressure to catch the killer, but they were struggling to find any leads. The investigation was led by the Texarkana Police Department, with assistance from the FBI. The police were following a trail of clues, but every lead seemed to end in a dead end. The police were looking at several early suspects, including a man named Billy Cook, who was known to have a history of violence. But as the investigation continued, it became clear that Cook was not the killer. The police also found a piece of fabric caught in the door of Betty Jo and Eddie's car, which they believed might be a crucial piece of evidence. But as they continued to investigate, they realized that the fabric was not a match for any of the suspects. The case was gaining national attention, and the police were under intense pressure to solve it. The people of Texarkana were living in fear, and the police were working around the clock to catch the killer. But as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months, the police were starting to run out of leads. The investigation was at a standstill, and it seemed like the killer was always one step ahead. But then, on March 27, 1946, just 4 days after the murder of Betty Jo and Eddie, the police received a tip that would change the course of the investigation. A man had come forward claiming that he had seen a suspicious person lurking around the area where Betty Jo and Eddie were killed. The police were skeptical at first, but they decided to investigate further. The man's name was Alvin Jasper, and he claimed that he had seen a man with a distinctive tattoo on his hand. The police were intrigued, and they decided to bring Jasper in for questioning. As they interrogated him, Jasper revealed more details about the killer, including the fact that he had seen him driving a red car. The police were now on high alert, and they were searching for any sign of a red car in the area. But as they continued to investigate, they realized that Jasper's story was not as solid as they had thought. He had made several conflicting statements, and the police were starting to doubt his credibility. The investigation was at a standstill once again, and it seemed like the killer was still out there, taunting the police. The case of the Phantom Killer remains one of the most infamous unsolved serial killer cases in American history. Despite numerous investigations and tips, the killer was never identified or brought to justice. The people of Texarkana were left to live in fear, and the police were left to wonder what they had missed. It started on the night of May 23, 1946, when 23-year-old Betty Jo Booker was shot and killed while driving home from a local dance. Her body was found on the side of the road, and the killer's signature was clear: he had left a small, white handkerchief at the scene. Over the next few days, 2 more couples were attacked and killed, and the Phantom Killer's reign of terror continued. The victims were 19-year-old Polly Ann Moore and 22-year-old Paul Martin, who were shot and killed while parked in their car, and 29-year-old Mary Switzer and 23-year-old Richard Griffin, who were shot and killed while walking down a deserted street. Years later, the case was reopened, and new evidence was discovered. It was too late, the killer was long gone, and the case was closed once again. The people of Texarkana were left to pick up the pieces and try to move on, but the memory of the Phantom Killer would never be forgotten. The case served as a catalyst for the FBI's Behavioral Science Unit, which was established in 1972 to study and analyze serial killers. Eyewitness accounts describe the killer as a tall, thin man wearing a black suit and a wide-brimmed hat, but these details never led to a concrete identification. The case files were filled with reports of a suspect, but none of them panned out. The investigation was led by Sheriff William Manuel, who worked tirelessly to gather evidence and track down leads. Despite his efforts, the case remained unsolved. The case of the Phantom Killer serves as a reminder that sometimes, justice is not served, and the truth is never revealed. It's a chilling reminder that there are still monsters out there, hiding in the shadows, waiting to strike. And for the people of Texarkana, the memory of the Phantom Killer will always be a haunting reminder of the terror that gripped their town in 1946. The victims' families were left to deal with the aftermath, and their stories are a testament to the enduring impact of the case. One of the victims, Betty Jo Booker, was just 15 years old when she was shot and killed. Her family was devastated by her loss, and they never forgot the sense of fear and uncertainty that gripped their community during those dark days. The case also left a lasting impact on the community, with many residents still talking about the Phantom Killer decades later. In fact, the case was so notorious that it even inspired a 1970 film, The Town That Dreaded Sundown, which was based on the real-life events. The film brought national attention to the case, but it also sparked controversy, with some residents feeling that it sensationalized the tragedy. In the years following the killings, the town of Texarkana struggled to come to terms with what had happened. The community came together to support the victims' families, but the trauma of the events lingered. The case of the Phantom Killer remains one of the most infamous unsolved serial killer cases in American history, and it continues to fascinate true crime enthusiasts to this day.